Now you might have taken lunch. Now let us start our activity number 13, presentation. So in morning, many students have presented very nicely and got also good marks, 10 out of 10 also. So I am happy what you are doing. Now in this practical session, I just requested Tarangi madam to give her badge because I hope that other students activity also you have to see how your classmates have done. You can learn from them, and as it is related to our syllabus, it's most important that all you will attend. So let us start our activity number 13. Now I will request Pratik Ingre to come because I am sharing his slide. He don't have PC.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
can you see my slide? 1 minute. I forgot to
Yes,
share
ma'am.
voice. I forgot to share voice. I have to stop it again and then again I will share. So just I'm sharing now Pratik English slide, and I hope that he will present in a nice way. Okay, Pratik, come and start. Pratik.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Hello, my name is Pratik Arun. Welcome to all of you, my dear friend and respected ma'am. My activity 13's topic is fibrous material. First of all, we are going to see the principle and nature of fibrous material. Fibrous material are material which are made up of fibers. They can be made up of fibers sticking to each other, resulting in the solid material like wood, or they can made of loosely coupled fiber, resulting in the flexible material like fabrics where the fibers can still move relative to each other. The most common example of naturally occurring fiber material are the trunk, branches and stem in plant. The most common example of man-made fibrous material are textile. Then water fibers. Fiber is a long, thin strand or thread of material. More than half of the fibers produced are natural fiber. Natural fiber include cotton, hair, fur, silk and wool. Fibers naturally occur in both plants and animals. So, you can see there are two types of fibers. First is natural fibers and second is man-made fibers or manufactured fibers. The natural fibers are biodegradable and sustainable, and man-made fibers are tough and resistive. So first we are going to say natural fibers. Natural fibers are fibers that are produced by plant, animal and geological processes. They can be used as a component of composite material where the orientation of fibers impact the properties. Natural fiber can also be melted into sheets to make paper or felt. You can see the peaks of natural fibers. Here are some types of natural fibers. First is leaf fibers. Its example is banana, sisal, agave and pineapple. Second is seed fibers. Its example are coir and cotton. Third is core fibers and its example is nap and hemp. Fourth is grass and its example is wheat, corn and rice. Then last, bast fibers and their examples are jet, flax, ramik. Properties of natural fibers. Natural fiber belong to the earliest known collective plant which have intrinsic properties. First is low weight, second is low cost, third is high specific strength, and last is specific stiffness. These properties have made them particularly attractive to many and varied industrial uses. Natural fibers are used in various applications such as building materials, particle board, insulating board, human food and animal feed, cosmetics, medicine for biopolymers and fine chemicals. The factors that should be considered in using natural fibers are: first is safety, second is mechanical strain, third is stiffness improvement of the composites, fourth is decreasing the density, and last is environmental issues. So after natural fibers, here is manufactured fibers. Any of the number of textile fibers produced from chemical substances of natural or synthetic origin. The latter are also known as synthetic fibers. Among the nature source of manufactured fibers. Here you can see the pictures of manufactured fibers. So there are two types of manufactured fibers. Type 1 is regenerated fibers and type 2 is synthetic fibers. So we are first going to see regenerated fibers. Regenerative fiber is created by dissolving the cellulose area of plant fiber in chemical and making into fiber again. Since it consists of cellulose like cotton and hemp, it is also called regenerated cellulose fiber. You can see the images. Then synthetic fibers. Synthetic fibers are made from small molecule synthesized polymers. The substances used to produce such fiber are extracted from raw materials such as chemical based on petroleum or petrochemicals. Such materials are polymerized into a chemical that ties together two adjacent atoms of carbon. You can see the peaks of synthetic fibers. The first use of synthetic fiber is in a broad variety of industries and sectors, including aerospace and apparel. Second is architectures and construction. Third is automotive and transportation. Fourth is chemical processing. Fifth is electrical and electronics. Sixth is filtration. So these are the use of synthetic fibers. So here is a difference between natural fibers and man-made fibers. Thank you.
Okay, Pratik, you have done very good PPT, colorful slides, but
Thank you,
why
ma'am.
you have not added any another
Hello,
techniques? Why you have,
my name is
why
Pratik
you have not added any
Tarun
other
Ingle.
technique?
Sorry, ma'am,
Hello,
I'm unable to hear you.
your PPT is very
Hello.
nice, but hello. Your PPT is very
Yes, ma'am.
nice,
Yes.
but why you have not added some another technique, video or some animation or some other things? Because
Be-
PPT is common and it was expected that you know the PPT. And some advanced means techniques from PPT you were expected to do or add in your PPT. So why you are not tried to do that?
yes,
Your
ma'am. Because I
PPT.
have the old version of computer. In this, there are
No,
no more
that's not,
options for
that is
it.
not the problem. See, if you will see PowerPoint presentation, in PowerPoint
Yes.
presentation only there are number of techniques. Animation is there, video
Yes,
insertion
ma'am.
is there. Okay, so 3 marks I have
Yes.
given for presentation, 3 marks for the content, but only 2 marks for your soft skills, means whatever ICT tools you have used. So only 7 marks.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay, next
Okay, ma'am.
now Rutuja, you can
I will
start
improve in
sharing.
my.
Yes,
Yes, ma'am.
uh, most important objective of the our this activity 13 is enhance your ICT tool usage. So you are learning to present, you are learning to share. Okay, you can start. Make slideshow. Yes, Rutuja, start.
Good morning to one and all. My name is Rutuja Jimne from SA Electrical and I am going to perform a presentation on ferroelectric materials guided by Dr. Dheen ma'am. Let's see what is ferroelectric materials. Ferroelectric materials are extensively used in capacitors and almost. Good morning to one and all. My name is Rutuja from SA Electrical and I am going to perform a presentation on ferroelectric materials guided by Dr. Dheen ma'am. Let's see what is ferroelectric materials. Ferroelectric materials are extensively used in capacitors and almost all types of switches. These are some images of ferroelectric materials. Now let's discuss the properties of ferroelectric materials. Crystal symmetry. The lattice structure in ferroelectric materials show crystal symmetry. This means they are joined together to form a point of group which consists of 32 points, out of which 21 do not have center of symmetry. This is the crystal symmetry of ferroelectric materials. Here are some more properties of ferroelectric materials. Now let's discuss the types of ferroelectric materials. Barium titanate, lead titanate, lead zirconic titanate, lead magnesium niobate are some types of ferroelectric materials. Here are some images of them. Let's see what are the applications of ferroelectric materials. First, capacitors. Capacitors are manufactured by barium titanate, which is a ferromagnetic material. Second,
What happened to Rutuja?
materials are also used in pressure sensors. These pressure sensors are also called as displacement transducers. This was all about ferroelectric materials. Hope you enjoy my video. Thank you.
What's happening, Rutuja, in between?
Ma'am, actually power cut. Actually, there was power cut in here, so it goes on hold on. Ma'am, am I audible?
Yes.
Can I share it once again?
Yes, yes.
Okay, ma'am. Is it visible?
Kumar? Hello, Kadam Kumar. Where is Kadam Kumar?
Hello,
Can you present?
ma'am. I present tomorrow.
Huh?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow. Am I come? Am I?
Yes, ma'am. Just sharing my video.
And then Sakshi, be ready.
Ma'am, is it visible?
Yes.
Okay.
Hello everyone, my name is Amir Kulkarni. I am studying in All India Shri
I'm audible.
Yes.
Okay.
Shivaji Memorial Society's College of Engineering, Pune, in electrical department, and I am in second year. So today I am going to show you how to perform the experiment with virtual lab, and the name of the experiment is photoelectric effect. Before going to the experiment, I would like to explain what is actually photoelectric effect. The phenomenon of emission of electrons by a certain substance, that is metal, when it is exposed to radiation of suitable frequencies is called as photoelectric effect, and emitted electrons are called as photoelectrons. So as we know, this is the actual definition of the photoelectric effect, and many scientists like Hertz, Lennard, and Einstein have worked in this effect, have contributed their brilliant minds in the effect, and also Albert Einstein have got a Nobel Prize for this effect. And we should remember while doing or performing the complete experiment that the photoelectric effect is one photon, one electron phenomena. When one photon cannot eject more than one photoelectron. That I will also explain later. But let us jump to the virtual lab. So as we can see, vlab.amrita.edu, it is a virtual lab. You can also get this lab's link in IIT VLab, that is provided by our HRD ministry. So for this, you need to first allow the Flash player on your browser. The Mozilla Firefox is more compatible in my version of Mozilla Firefox. So I am using this, but you can also do it on Chrome. So let me explain you the connection. This is the photosensitive material which we are testing. This is the wavelength generator, or we can say the light generator. We can adjust the wavelength intensity of the light. This is a normal current measuring instrument, that is ammeter, and this is the voltage source that we are going to apply the stopping potential for this. So these are the basic connections. So in this experiment, we are going to learn that effect of frequency on photoelectric effect, effect of intensity of light on photoelectric effect, and effect of difference between two plates on photoelectric effect. And we are going to study in brief the Einstein's equation of photoelectric effect. So basically, for starting the experiment, we should switch on the light. As we see, there is no current reading, or there is no voltage applied to any of the parts, and the current is zero. And also, all these parameters are zero. As we can adjust the area of the plate, intensity of light, voltage applied, and wavelength of the light. But copper, instead of copper, I am selecting sodium metal. The first thing we should remember for this, that is the material or the metal should be photosensitive. That means it should be suitable for performing the experiment, that it should emit electrons after being exposed to the certain intensity, certain radiation of certain intensity. So let's keep the area of the plate 2 centimeters per square. Also, we can adjust the area whatever we can, but 0.2 centimeter square is convenient for calculations. So as we can see, the current reading is increased. So first we will study the effect of frequency. As we can see, there is no such adjustment in this lab that we can't adjust the actual frequency. But as we know, light speed is constant, that is 3.8 into 10 raised to 8 meter per second. But frequency and wavelength are inversely proportional to each other. So by adjusting the frequency of light, adjusting the wavelength of the light, we can also adjust the frequency of light. As the frequency increases, wavelength decreases, and vice versa. So the minimum frequency indicates the maximum wavelength, and the minimum wavelength indicates the maximum frequency. As we know, we can also prove this relation by V is equal to n lambda. So going further, I will adjust the intensity to 10 watt per meter square, and I will keep the applied voltage 0 itself. So as we can see, there is only a certain kind of reading in the meter. As I will increase the wavelength, there is no change, as we can observe, because we are changing the wavelength, and for sodium or for any photosensitive metal, there is a minimum amount of frequency of incident radiation, and for which photoelectrons are just emitted from photosensitive material, and it is called threshold frequency. So we should adjust the light source to the threshold frequency, and unless and until that threshold is reached, we can't observe the photo emission. So if there is a limit on wavelength that is only 750 nanometers, we should increase the intensity to observe the desired effect. As we can see, the current is increasing. So as I am increasing the wavelength, there is no effect on the current. As you can see, there is no effect on the current. So so as we can see, the relation of frequency and wavelength on this current. Here you see, I increase the wavelength, that means I increase the wavelength, that means I decreased the frequency, and you can see the emitter reading has suddenly become 0, and there is no emission of photoelectrons. So this proves that this extends the concepts of the threshold frequency, that minimum frequency is needed to generate the to generate the photoelectrons, or to force the electrons to emit from the metal. So this is the relation of threshold frequency, and the threshold frequency is called mu 0. We know that H is equal to I'm sorry. So this is the relation between the photoelectric effect and the incident radiation frequency. As we know, intensity of light also contributes to the photoelectric effect, and the relation is so simple that brighter the light, more are the photons. But we should remember that the brighter the light, the more are the photons injected from the metal, but the energy of the photons is same. So there is no change in energy of photons. So let me show you that we will keep the radiation fixed to 436 nanometers, and we will increase the intensity of light. As we can see, there is current is increasing, that means number of photons are increasing. So intensity of light and emitted photons, that means photoelectric effect, have direct relation. But we should keep in mind that if we are observing one parameter, or if we are willing to observe one effect of one entity on photoelectric effect, all entities should remain same. That means area of the plate, voltage applied, and wavelength of the light, if we are observing intensity. If we are observing voltage applied, then all the other parameters should be constant, and they should not be varying or changing. So last but not the least, we will study the effect of potential difference on photoelectric effect. Remember, this potential difference is negative. That means we apply a negative potential to the another plate or to the adjacent plate of the photosensitive material. That I will show how we can do this. So here we can see there is voltage source connected. So here it is now it is 0. So as we increase the voltage, all the parameters are kept unchanged. So as we increase the voltage, you can see the current is decreasing. You can see, or we should do it for if we want to observe it for longer range, then we will do this: increase the intensity and increase the frequency as well. So as we can see, the minus 0.3 volt is applied and current is 1.19. So if we are increasing, that means we are increasing the negative of the stopping potential, then we can observe that the current is decreasing. That means the electrons are stopped. So I increase the voltage, I increase the stopping potential or the voltage applied, then the current is also decreasing. See here, current is also decreasing. The power of the current is also decreasing. So these are the entities that affect the photoelectric effect. So let me tell you the brief about the experiment and the photoelectric effect. For a given photosensitive material, there exists a certain minimum cutoff frequency of the incident radiation called threshold, frequency nu0, below which no emission of photoelectrons can take place. The threshold frequency is different for different metals. Like sodium, it is X, for copper, it is Y, like that. For a given photosensitive material and frequency of incident radiation, about this frequency of incident radiation should be above threshold. Okay, the photoelectric current is directly proportional to the intensity of incident light. As we perform that, intensity and photoelectric effect is directly proportional, but the frequency of that incident radiation should be above the threshold frequency. Above the threshold frequency nu0, the maximum kinetic energy of the emitted photoelectron increases linearly with the frequency of the incident radiation, but it is independent of the intensity of incident radiation. The kinetic energy part we will actually not go into deep. We will not be going into the deep concept of the kinetic energy of ejected photoelectrons. The next and the last characteristic of photoelectric effect is the emission of photoelectron is an instantaneous process. There is no lag time between the irradiation of metal surface and the emission of photoelectron. So these are we can say the summary of the photoelectric effect. But Einstein, after Hertz experiment, explained photoelectric effect in a better way, and he introduced another constant, or we can say another concept, that is photoelectric effect is a quantum effect, and he introduced Planck's constant in the photoelectric equation, and Einstein proved that from experiment, of course, the minimum energy required to free electron from a given surface is called photoelectric work function, and it is denoted by phi0. And it is characteristics of material. That means sodium has different work function and all these things. So he proved that half mv square max, that is Ke max of the ejected photoelectron, is equal to h into nu. H is Planck's constant, nu is frequency, and this product product H nu. From this product we subtract the work function. From the product of H nu we subtract the work function, and it will give us the Ke max, that is kinetic energy, maximum kinetic energy of the ejected photoelectron. So we should remember that there is no effect of intensity of light on the kinetic energy of emitted photoelectron. So Einstein proved this, and he received a Nobel Prize for this discovery. And yes, the here we can conclude the relation between intensity, frequency, and the stopping potential, that means voltage applied of the circuit or of the experiment. And here we conclude the effect of entities, and we can plot the graph by the readings which are available in this emitter, this voltage source, and the intensity of light, area of the plate, and frequency of the light. That means here the wavelength of the light. So hope you all liked the experiment and my explanation. So thank you.
Okay, Amay, very good. Now got 10 out of 10.
Thank you, ma'am.
You want to say something, Amay?
Yes, ma'am. I wanted to say that the main problem, because of the browser security and privacy settings, we should enable the flash player for only this site. If we enable
Yes.
it for all the site, it will can inject the virus in our PC. So be careful about that.
Okay. Then after just doing activity, you can again reset and block the site.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, now Siddharth's slide I will share. Then Limay, you be ready, and after Limay, Sakshi. Okay, I'm going to share Siddharth's slide. Can you see? Can you see Siddharth's PPT?
Ma'am, she's Ruchika.
It's Ruchika, ma'am.
Ruchika's PPT is displayed.
On my screen, it's Siddharth's.
No, ma'am, it's ma'am.
Ruchika's ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
What happened? There are number of PPTs now in my. Can you see now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Siddharth, start.
Good afternoon, everyone. My topic is copper and copper alloys. Ma'am, can I share it? I'll share it.
I have shared it, no?
But
can you see or no, Siddharth? Hello, Siddharth? Students, can you see?
yes, ma'am, I can see it.
Then who will talk? I will talk.
No, ma'am, but slide slow.
Slideshow is there. Slideshow is there. You recorded your voice also.
No, ma'am, I've just sent the PPT.
Arey, then you have to talk now. I have shared the slide. You can see or no slides? Siddharth? Hello, Siddharth?
Yes, ma'am, I can see, but I can't operate the files.
Arey, I'm operating. You have to talk. I will share means I'm operating. You have to talk. Talk on the first slide. What you see on screen, you go on talking. Or you don't
Yes,
see
ma'am.
the slide? Can you see the slide?
Yes, ma'am. I'm
Then start talking on that.
okay. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Siddharth Lahamge, and my topic for today is copper and copper alloys. History: the oldest metal known to man was copper. It was between 1000 and 800 BC when copper was found. The name copper, the symbol Cu comes from Latin word, and in Greek, copper was chalcos. This period in time, this period in time is the Paleolithic, means copper stone. And here it is periodic table where you can see copper. Next slide is copper properties. Symbol is Cu, atomic number 29, atomic weight 63.546. Standard state is solid at room temperature, and color is copper and metallic. Properties of copper are it's ductile, it's malleable, high thermal conductivity, it has high electrical conductivity, easily alloyed, it has good corrosion resistance, it is readily available, highly recyclable, and antimicrobial. Copper alloys. In for our syllabus, we have only two copper alloys, that is uh, brass and bronze. Here copper alloys. These are the copper alloys distinguished in some types. There's a color, mechanability, wear resistance, corrosion resistance, and strength. Next is families. Here the specific names are given to every alloys. That is C100X in C15 150XX is commercially pure Cu. C151XX and C199XX is age hardenable, that is Cu. C2 triple XX is Cu and zinc alloys, that braces. And C3 XX is Cu zinc Pb alloys, leaded brasses. Then C4 XX is in bronze, phosphorus, and bronzes, and then copper, nickel, and CuZn, Ni, nickel, silver. C800XX, C811XX is commercial pure copper, and C813XX, C8288 is has 95 to 99% copper in it present, and C9XX is other alloys including tin, bronze, aluminium, bronze, and copper, nickel. Uses of copper alloy. C1100 is copper. It's used in architecture, automotive, electrical hardware, and as anodes, chemical process equipments, kettles, pans, printing rolls, rotating bands, road bed expansion, etc. Here are some copper examples. It's a kettle and all that. Next is typical uses of C260000. This is a brass, architectural grill work, automotive like radiator and heater cores and tanks. Your brass is present, electrical like flashlight shells, lamp fixtures, switches, electrons will screw shells, socket shells, hardware, wires, copper wires, and plumbing for plumbing purposes. Two examples of brass. And C36000 free machining brass. It is used in hardware like gears and industrial, automotive, high speed crew machine parts. Some examples. Phosphorus bronze is the next copper alloy which we have in the syllabus. It's used in architectural bridge bearing plates, hardware, and industrial chemical hardware, textile machinery, and welding rods. Few examples related to it. And overall market of copper materials, 11.8% of copper is consumed by consumers and general products. 16.4% is used for transportation equipments. 7.5% is used for industrial machinery. 20.4% is used for electrical and electronics, and the rest 43.9% is used for building construction. Thank you.
Now Limay, come. Limay. Hello, Limay. Limay. Siddharth, you took ready-made PPT, yes or no? Now Sakshi, come ahead. Can you see Sakshi's PPT?
Ma'am, I can share. I have a PC.
But you told me to share. Now I have shared, you start.
Ma'am, please can I? Please.
Share. Siddharth took ready-made PPT and I don't think that he will able to talk on copper and copper bronze. Dear students, you have to prepare it by understanding the content. It doesn't mean that you have to read it. You have to grasp it, understand, remain in your mind. Then only there is a purpose of activity. I gave 5 marks to Siddharth. 1 mark for his ICT tool usage because he did not prepare PPT. 2 mark for presentation and 2 mark for the content. Start, Sakshi.
Yes, ma'am. Is it visible?
Yes.
Okay. Hello, everyone.
Yes.
This is the activity of 13 of material science. Hello, I'm Sakshi Lokhande from SC Electrical. My roll number is 26 and SR number is 36. The activity is guided by Dr. Mangal Then. The name of the activity is a classification of magnetic materials. So first of all, what is a magnetic materials? So magnetic materials are the materials studied and used mainly for their magnetic properties. The magnetic response of the material is largely determined by the magnetic dipole moment associated with the intrinsic angular momentum or a spin of its electron. So the main classification of magnetic materials. So there is a diamagnetic materials, paramagnetic materials, ferromagnetic, ferrimagnetic, and antiferrimagnetic materials. So here is I put a table so you can understand which are the ferromagnetic, which are paramagnetic, which are diamagnetic materials in the periodic table. All materials can be classified in terms of their magnetic behavior, falling into 5 categories depending on their bulk magnetic susceptibility. The 2 most common types of magnetism are diamagnetic and paramagnetism, which account for their magnetic property of most of the periodic table of element at the room temperature. So first one is a diamagnetic material. So I will show you a video.
Materials that are repelled by...
Is it audible?
Yes.
Yes, Sakshi, continue.
Okay, ma'am.
Materials that are repelled by magnets. When a bar of diamagnetic material is placed in a non-uniform external magnetic field, it tends to move from a region of strong magnetic field to a weaker magnetic field. We also observe that the magnetic field lines are expelled or repelled by the diamagnetic material, and the magnetic field inside the material is reduced. Let us discuss the causes of diamagnetism. We know that the orbiting electrons around the nucleus in an atom are equivalent to the current carrying loops. These electrons possess an orbital magnetic moment. For a diamagnetic material, the resultant magnetic moment of all the electrons in an atom is 0. When the diamagnetic material is placed in an external magnetic field, due to induced current, the movement of the electrons for which the orbital magnetic moment is in the same direction as that of the external magnetic field is slowed down, and the orbital magnetic moment of the electron decreases. Likewise, the movement of the electrons for which the orbital magnetic moment is in the opposite direction to that of the external magnetic field is sped up, and the orbital magnetic moment of the electron increases.
So, in short, diamagnetic materials are also called as negative magnetism. Xi is the magnetic susceptibility of the diamagnetic material is negative, that is less than 0. Magnetic susceptibility of diamagnetic materials are independent of temperature. These materials repel from the applied magnetic field. Relative permeability is slightly less than 1. The examples of diamagnetic material are bismuth, copper, water, hydrogen, nitrogen, aluminium, and mercury. So next is a paramagnetic material. Here is also short video.
Materials are the materials that are weakly attracted by the magnets. When a bar of paramagnetic material is placed in a non-uniform external magnetic field, it tends to move from a region of weak magnetic field to a stronger magnetic field. The magnetic field lines get concentrated in the paramagnetic material, and the magnetic field inside the material increases. Now let us discuss about the causes of paramagnetism. In case of paramagnetic material, individual atoms possess a permanent magnetic dipole moment due to the orbiting electrons in the atom. But due to random thermal motion of the atoms, the net magnetic moment of the material is 0. When a paramagnetic material is placed in an external magnetic field of induction B0 at low temperatures, the magnetic dipole moment of the individual atoms align in the same direction as of the external magnetic.
As in the all video, you see that to study a magnetic property of any magnetic material, the material is usually placed in a uniform magnetic field, and then magnetic field is varied.
Materials are the materials that are weakly attracted by the.
So, in short, paramagnetic materials can contain random orientation of the dipole. The magnetic susceptibility is a positive. Magnetic susceptibility is inversely proportional to the temperature, that we can obtain the Curie's law, and it attracted feebly by the magnetic field. If a paramagnetic materials are placed in a magnetic field, the magnetic lines of force are slightly tends to pass through the material by bending. If paramagnetic materials remove the magnetizing field, the paramagnetic loses their magnetization. The examples of paramagnetic materials are complex myoglobin, transition metal complexes, iron oxide, and oxygen titanium. So next is a ferromagnetic materials
that are strongly attracted by the magnets. When a bar of ferromagnetic material is placed in a non-uniform external magnetic field, it has a strong tendency to move from a region of weak magnetic field to a stronger magnetic field. And the field lines are highly concentrated inside the ferromagnetic material. Let us discuss the causes of ferromagnetism. Similar to the paramagnetic material, the individual atoms in a ferromagnetic material also possess a permanent magnetic dipole moment due to the orbiting electrons. These individual atoms interact with one another and arrange themselves in a common direction over a volume of some millimeters. This volume is called the domain. Each domain contains about 10 to the power 11 atoms, and each domain has a net magnetization. The magnetization changes from domain to domain. Thus, the net magnetization of a ferromagnetic material is negligible. When a bar of ferromagnetic material is placed in an external magnetic field of induction B0, the magnetization of the domains orient in the direction of the applied magnetic field. When the external magnetic field is removed, some ferromagnetic materials can retain the magnetization, and such materials are called hard ferromagnets or hard magnetic materials. Alnico, steel, Tconl, that are strongly attracted by the magnet.
So ferromagnetic materials have a permanent dipole moment present in the domains. When a ferromagnetic substance is liquefied, it loses its ferromagnetic property due to a higher temperature. The relative permeability is also a very large. The ferromagnetic materials are strongly attracted by the fields. The magnetic susceptibility is a very large and positive. The magnetic dipole moment is a large and is in the direction of the magnetizing field. Examples: iron, cobalt, and nickel. Next is a ferrimagnetic materials. The ferrites are ionic compounds, and their magnetic ions are responsible for their magnetic properties. Some magnetic domains in the ferrimagnetic material point in the same direction and some in the opposite direction. Within the materials, the exchange interaction leads to parallel alignment of an atom in some of the crystal sites and anti-parallel alignments of others. Although ferrimagnetic materials usually have a lower saturation magnetization. The next is antiferromagnetic materials. Antiferromagnetic materials are very similar to the ferromagnetic materials, but the exchange interaction between the neighboring atoms leads to the anti-parallel alignment of the atomic magnetic moment. The magnetic field cancels out and the material appears to behave in the same way as a paramagnetic materials. When the temperature is increased beyond a certain temperature of
Okay, Sakshi, very good that you got 10 out of 10. Sakshi used animation and PPT video. You can just see how she made animation in a very simple way for the lettering, and video also, and content was also very good, appropriate. So she got 10 out of 10. Now remaining students we will just take in tomorrow's lecture. I don't want to extend the time. Tomorrow in lecture 25 students, first 25 students must perform if you have remained. Otherwise now there will be no chance for the A batch after tomorrow's lecture. Okay, and remaining students, Ritik is very eager to present. He just asked me when his turn will be there, but I don't want to extend. So Ritik, you can present in tomorrow's lecture. Then Ruchika, Sharvari, Ruchika, and other students who mailed me. So in tomorrow's lecture we will take it. Okay, so just now we will stop. Thank you.
Hello.
Any
Hello,
difficulty?